worry about, as do I, our own domestic extremism instead of assuming that magically Americans are going to turn to Hezbollah as a form of civil governance here in the United States of America. You're fucking insane. That is so crazy. This part is also interesting to hear. Sam talks about the terrorist apologist accusation here.
I said that he had been doing, I think I was like, he has been doing worse than apologia for Houthis and Hezbollah or something.
Okay.
And it was taken as like you can't criticize, resistance groups.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
And I could go into the examples of what made me recoil, but...
This is a different chatter. Context, caller had sent a message a week before this. This is bullprog. I assume that's like another content creator.
That's not what I want to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I think, like, look, it's a nuanced question because undoubtedly,
Sam doesn't need to know anything about the details of like whatever is like clip champed or whatever. He might even take what this person is saying at face value. But you know what's interesting about this? It ultimately doesn't matter because he knows that when you contextualize any kind of violent resistance movement that is outside of American sphere of influence, you will get fucking terror jacketed. Okay? He knows this because he has been doing this for many, many years. And he has been attacked viciously as well. Most of the time, however, these attacks used to come from the right. Liberals were, at the very least, a little bit more understanding and did not engage in this level of immediate, like, oh, you're a terrorist supporter, you're a terrorist defender.
There is an attempt to define these groups, whether it's the Houthis or Hezbollah or Hamas, or the Israelis, for that matter, in the most absolutist terms. And certainly, you can have terror tactics and be a liberation movement. And people can make, assessments, as to tactics and to efficacy, because people always, make these assessments. The Houthis, I don't think are, I don't think they're role models, as it were. There was value to some degree.
That's what I was getting at.
What's that?
And that's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay, but then there is no argument because I have time and time again talked about this aspect of this, of their civil governance or their domestic affairs or their ideological positioning as being directly at odds with mine. Same with Hezbollah. It is utterly irrelevant in the conversation surrounding their actions against Israel's endless bombing campaign. And this is what I always say. If you look to Hezbollah's ideological position on gay people, or the Houthis' ideological position on gay people, or their actions that they've taken against gay people in Yemen, and you turn around and go, damn, dog, can't believe you're defending that. You're a fucking idiot. I have never defended that, and I will never defend that. The point is, it is utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. It is utterly irrelevant because the reason why they're being bombed is not because of their, death campaign or destruction campaign upon gay people or whatever, okay? If you personally believe that Operation Prosperity Guardian is being done to defend homophobia or to fight against homophobia, you are the biggest rube of all time. Hasan Nasrallah was not assassinated by the state of Israel for Hezbollah's actions in Syria. Hasan Nasrallah was not assassinated by the state of Israel for being homophobic. Hasan Nasrallah was assassinated by the state of Israel alongside PFLP and DFLP leaders who had nothing to do with the cross-border bombing campaign that was going between Hezbollah and Israel, by the way, but they still were assassinated in that same night because of his position as a figurehead that resists against Israeli bombing campaigns in Gaza. That's it. Not actually irrelevant. It's just that it should be treated as a different issue. No, it is irrelevant in this conversation. It is irrelevant in this conversation, especially in the same vein that, like, if you were to turn around and be like, well, sorry, I don't know what like America's opinion on gay people was in the 40s, so I will not fucking talk about like their actions against the Nazi regime. That's ridiculous. People would fucking laugh at you if you were like, well, excuse me, America was a segregationist shithole in the 40s. So what? Were they the bad guys in World War II? No, they weren't. The only reason why people bring this shit up in conversations like this is the exact same reason over and over again. They did this with the Taliban. Like, I'm not a fucking fan of the Taliban. What are you, stupid? It's to justify permanent occupation. That's it. It is a way to try and be like, well, they're bad guys too. It's like, yeah, sure. Are you fixing it? Or are we the big bad? Yeah, it's like saying British sterilized gay people, so they actually were the bad guys in World War II. America was a racist apartheid regime during the 30s and 40s. Stalin was a racist conservative opportunist who was responsible for Holodomor. The British Empire was doing genocide and doing colonialism for many decades leading up to World War II and during World War II. The Nazis were such an insane evil that the Allies are very clearly and correctly viewed as the good guys. Context matters. Exactly. And yes, no, Stalin did have conservative leanings. Let's be fucking real, okay? Calm down. Like, he did. He had a lot of right opinions, especially within the framework of World War II. And he also wasn't the best fucking wasn't the best governor, okay? I don't think that is a I don't think that is a controversial take. See, the reason why we can have this conversation, however, is because now we are having this conversation within the historical framework. Yeah, they did. They chemically castrated Turing because he was gay, the guy who pretty much saved the war. I know. The example I like to use is how Florida has that law that says they have to teach slavery, had some upsides, but you won't hear me saying they deserve Milton. Exactly. Let's continue.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was value.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And
some of their tactics I found were valuable, right? Like, somebody is at least trying to inhibit and make Israel pay a price that's associated with their attacks.
The only people fighting for them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I totally
but at
get
the
that.
same time,
and like
at the same time, you're exacerbating at one point the starvation in Sudan. Some of those ships are sending goods and are sending food supplies and aid to Sudan. I mean, so it's not, none of it is black and white. And I think, but certainly, like, the idea that, there's total denial that Hamas was is a liberation movement. People can, I think,
disagree with people can disagree with their methods. They can. And there has been many thoughtful criticisms of their methods. And even historical reference points as to how they evolved into the violent actions that they thought were appropriate in terms of causing the settler colonial state to incur a penalty for its maintenance of the apartheid. I don't even agree with what Sam said in terms of like Ansar Allah is responsible for some harm in Sudan, but especially considering that one of the countries that also was responsible for the fucking famine and genocide in Yemen is currently also responsible for the RSF doing a genocide in Sudan. Please just say anything about Sudan. I have talked about it before. What do you mean? Then talk about Sudan for once. I have. It's the UAE.
Immoral to kill civilians. People can, like I've already said, from an international law standpoint, I think Hamas probably has, more standing than most people give them credit for. I do know that the ICJ had or is seeking warrants for crimes against humanity, both for Sinwar and I think his number two, and Netanyahu and Gallant. And I defer to those prosecutions as to the validity of those.
A person asked, like, where is this assessment coming from? I mean, you can Google it yourself, but to end Sudan's war, here's from foreignpolicy.com. It's one of those few issues where you can go to foreignpolicy.com and actually see exactly what the fuck is going on, because it's one of those few issues where, like, it's our ally doing it, but, like, we don't really have a direct involvement, so we can actually fucking criticize it. Why can't uBlock work anymore? What is happening here? I hate that. Never mind. I fucking did it. I did the dang thing. Sudan civil war fueled by secret arms shipments from UAE and Iran. Despite denials, weapons inspection. I like that they put Iran in there. Okay, Chrome is breaking it. No, it's fine. It worked. The ongoing crisis there has reached a catastrophic proportion, yet the international community's response remains woefully inadequate. A series of missteps and political maneuvers have undermined efforts to provide meaningful assistance to those in desperate need, and the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, the paramilitary group responsible for much of the violence, has yet to be held accountable for actively destroying the country's food reserves. The situation demands immediate action and a drastic shift in approach from global leaders and institutions. At the core of this failure is the United Nations Security Council's persistent delays in addressing findings from its own panel of experts on Sudan. These findings document credible allegations of the United Arab Emirates' involvement in violating Darfur's arms embargo by supplying the RSF with weapons and ammunition. Furthermore, The Guardian reported that the UK government officials have been blocking discussions of the UAE's involvement in the Security Council for months, including after the Labour Party took power in July. So if you want to understand, it is like somewhat associated with the Western leadership refusing to reckon, Western leadership refusing to rein UAE in. But once again, we rarely ever get our allies in the region to rein it in, seemingly, especially when, you're going to laugh about rape or deny today. Chatter, I think you should probably watch this. You should probably look at this if you are legitimately concerned with this. This will probably cause you to understand that you are maybe deluded or wrong. I like that there is this massive effort post, by the way. Respect. Respect to the person who made that. I don't think that you care about the truth, though. You want to hear about how another person from a different community defends genocide calling into the majority report? No, hold on. Let's just finish this.
And so, I don't want to be rooting on a, someone who those prosecutors, neither of whom have been convicted, but that's not usually what I recommend. Is a recommendation to me, but I also think that the preponderance of, on some level, it's just a sheer propaganda war, right? I mean, there's no, like I say, that I have friends of my father's calling to ask if I'm an anti-Semite makes me feel like this is, hey, wait, maybe this isn't just like a straight on assessment of what's going on here. And, and so I can certainly see from a rhetorical standpoint and from a propaganda standpoint, like, you don't want to show up at a gunfight with a knife, as it were. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry.
I just say, Bullprog, I appreciate you calling in, and I want to say, like, I do, like, I feel defensive about what Hasan's going through, and I know so does Emma, and we have a disagreement there, but just generally, I do think there's a tension here. And one thing, a quote from Fred Hampton weeks before he died after a Weatherman riot in Chicago, he said, "We believe that the Weatherman action is anarchistic, opportunistic, individualistic, it's chauvinistic, it's custoristic," and that's the bad part about it. It's custoristic in that its leaders take people into situations where they can be massacred, and they call that a revolution. It's nothing but child's play. It's folly. We think these people may be sincere, but they're misguided. They're muddleheads and they're scatterbrains. So, like, generally, I do appreciate all the work you've done out there, actually, in the streets, and seeing this stuff. So, yeah, no hard feelings on our part.
Yeah. Well, my closing message that I kind of wanted to get across is that, like, I care about you guys, I care about the rest of the crew, I care about all the listeners, and like, I just don't want people to burn themselves on some silly stuff. And like, there are ways to stay on message without.
Yeah, you're right, man. I should. Yeah, that's a good criticism. Call missing some context. No, it's just like, it's such a silly fucking thing, dude. It's such a silly type of criticism coming from someone who's like ostensibly on the leftist side of this issue, because it's like what are you talking about? You got fucking primed into believing that like I want some kind of like Islamist fundamentalism to occur because of my contextualization of how resistance groups operate. Like, come on. Like, tone policing a genocide is ridiculous. Yeah, he says we should stay on message and then complains about something that happened a year ago. I know. It's like, it's almost as ridiculous as like, oh, I don't want an adpocalypse to happen, but also I hope it does, is fucking ridiculous. You want it to happen. You're like demanding that it happens, as a matter of fact. He compared you to some teens at a protest who graffiti kill cops. That's the context. Yeah, except I have also, ironically, criticized people who go to fucking pro-Palestinian protests and then do that shit where they're like, we're going to kill all the fucking Zionists. Like, you live in America, man. You live in fucking the United States of America. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't be saying shit like that. So, you know, I understand how passionate people get in these moments and how frustrated people get in these fucking moments, but that kind of LARPing is also ineffective. So on the optics front, I have also regularly talked about that being, especially in the West, not a fucking appropriate method of protest. So that's another part of this equation. I always say over and over again, you can never be as callous as right-wingers are, and you shouldn't anyway. Regardless, if you were to turn around and fucking compare that to like some fucking random 19-year-old in Yemen posting a similar image, you are insane. You have to recognize what the fuck these people's their lived experiences look like. Okay? Yes, I will always have smoke for someone who grew up in the fucking Upper West Side saying some shit like that, versus like, it is immaterial in the grand scheme of things when someone living in fucking Yemen is posting shit like that, okay? It's immaterial. Like, it's still wrong, but it doesn't fucking matter in the grand scheme of things. You could die at any fucking moment. It's ridiculous. People have compared this dude that I interviewed 10 fucking months ago at this point, like even before I believe the Houthis were brought back into the fucking terrorist watch list, by the way, even though Brandon took them off the watch list, but then put them back on to launch Operation Prosperity Guardian, like, to Osama bin Laden, you know, the architects of 9/11 and shit. It's like, dude, come on. Come the fuck on. That chatter complaint about BLM supporters writing kill cops on a courthouse wall. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it does not take away from the overarching message. I said this during the Black Lives Matter protests as well.
Taking stances out of reflexive reaction or spite, and because like fascists will exploit your emotions and use your reactions against you. And we have to be careful about giving in to cynicism, because that's when we start letting go of hope and turning towards darker paths. And, you know, a community might start saying something ironically, and soon enough people are just saying it, and the memes become what they actually mean, like what happened with 4chan and Pepe and all that stuff. So we have an adage that we use at George Floyd Square about a snow globe, where something will come and shake you up, and it will be hard to see for a minute.
Yeah, the youth demand Shia Islam. The youth are going to demand Shia Islam. They are going to see the light of Allah, okay, because of the actions of Hezbollah, and they are going to yearn for Shia Islam. Where is our mullahs, I say? The American Christian dominance has gone on for far too long. Everyone knows that the United States of America must be led into the new era by seeing the light of Allah, recognizing Muhammad as his prophet, and changing our secular governance structure away from Christian values to one that reflects the true light of Allah, Shia Islam. It's literally going to be like those two communists with a book club in Disco Elysium. Very worrying. Yeah, the children yearn for the Ayatollah. Bro, you need to say this as a joke. They will believe you. I am saying this as a joke. That's fucking nuts. This is what the English right actually thinks is happening? Yeah. Renaming my 8-year-old Muhammad right now. Smart.
But if you take a moment to settle, the vision of the core goal becomes clear again. So, yeah.
Well, Prague, appreciate it.
Goes out to everyone.
Thank you. Really appreciate your...
The only reason why the fucking 4chan memes become real life shit is because it's homegrown extremism. It's homegrown fundamentalism. This is no different than assuming that like America is going to adopt Sharia law. Okay? You have to be insane. Worry about, as do I, our own domestic extremism instead of assuming that magically Americans are going to turn to Hezbollah as a form of civil governance here in the United States of America. You're fucking insane. God damn, dude. Holy shit.